Well, that's about as active a trade deadline day it could have been for the New York Jets. And if I'm not mistaken, there's still about 45 minutes to go. Jets GM Darren Muji shocks Jets fans and the NFL, if you ask me, by trading two of his best young players, possibly his two best young players, in cornerback Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, both dealt, no longer New York Jets. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Just woke up to this news myself, was up for about 30 hours with work stuff, took a little nap, woke up, and before I even saw the trades, I was like, I bet they made trades. I didn't think they would be this big. I'm thinking Brees Hall, something like that. Pick up the phone, start scrolling, look at all the messages, couldn't believe what I was seeing. Sauce Gardner heading to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for 2 first-round picks and wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. Quinnen Williams heads to Dallas, the Cowboys, for a 2026 2 and a 2027 1, along with defensive tackle Mozzie Smith, the former Michigan product. This is huge, folks. I mean, there was talk. I said, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, however many weeks ago, I came on the show and I asked, I said, listen, this is not me saying I want to see Quinnen Williams traded, but I think we have to start thinking about this as a possibility. And people, I got killed for it a little bit. Nobody wanted to hear it. And I prefaced it by saying, I do not want Quinnen Williams traded. But when you look at the big picture, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Here's my thinking. And maybe I'm a little bit more cynical than others. David's hopped in the chat to say the Jets will suck next year. Probably. They probably would have anyway. And that was part of my rationale. I said a few weeks ago, Quinnen Williams is 27. The Jets are terrible right now. Here is, in my mind, the best the Jets could have hoped for was suck this year, pretty bad next year, maybe contend the following year. Maybe. Okay. So Quinnen Williams is 27. That means by the time you might be good, if everything goes well, he's 30 and he's hitting free agency. Do you really want to give him another monster contract as he turns 30? I'm not saying he wouldn't be worth it. I'm saying that's a bit more of a gamble than giving a huge contract to a 25-year-old. So the fact that this year was going to be wasted, next year was probably going to be wasted, and the following, I mean, let's be honest. They're good in 2 years if everything goes perfect. How often do things go perfect for this team? They're probably not even good in 3 years. But if they are, Quinnen's 30 and he's due for a new deal. And they kind of need to, they need assets. They don't have a lot of picks. Well, they didn't have a lot of picks. So that was my rationale. I said, look, I love Quinnen. Don't want him to go. Elite player. But the team is bad. And listen, this may be something that happened or not. We may not know about it behind the scenes. There's a possibility Quinnen played a role in this. A possibility. Again, I'm just speculating. But we know that when the Aaron Rodgers situation unfolded and he was allowed to walk, he tweeted out, I guess I'm part of another rebuild, which Aaron Glenn wasn't happy about. And Aaron Glenn talked to him and they smoothed it over, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Fast forward to week 10 and you have one win this year. Would anyone be surprised if he had his agent call and say, look, Quinnen's loved his time there, but you guys suck again, and you probably will for a few years. He's not had a winning record since his time at Alabama. Do what you can to move my guy. He has value, lots of it. And we saw this today. As I said, the compensation, excuse me, unless it's changed. Read this while I was half asleep like 9 minutes ago. A 2026 2, a 2027 1, and Mozzie Smith. Sauce Gardner, the more shocking of the deal, just gave him a long-term contract. I just tweeted out yesterday, and the show I did an article, and I talked about the numbers that Sauce is the only corner in the NFL with 200 plus reps, 200 plus pass coverage reps to allow 10 catches or less and hold opposing quarterbacks under 50%. As much as people dog on the guy, he can play. He can absolutely play. He's one of the best corners in the NFL, and that's why The team with the best record in the NFL right now just gave you 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell for him. Now, let's do the math on that. Oh, Sauce sucks. Sauce is terrible. Sauce is overrated. He just fetched you 2 first-round picks. Don't know how I feel about it. Love the player. Love the person. Just high-class guy. Always says the right things. Keeps himself out of trouble. He was a building block. He was a building block for this team that I thought him and Garrett were safe. Don't I mean now nobody's safe at this point. If there I mean, I think Garrett Wilson is safe. But if my math is correct, the Jets have 35 minutes until the trade deadline hits. Let me take a look real quick. Yeah, I think 4, right? And I think that all the time clock changes are on board and let's see. Just gonna pop on here real quick. Yes, Colts fans, it would appear, are happy with the move. Why wouldn't they be? Hmm. There we go. Yeah, so this is obviously huge, folks. I mean, this is I'm not being rude here. Just give me 1 second. I'm reading to see if that's what I'm waiting to see if anything else has happened or yeah, I sent out this tweet a couple days ago, as I just said, highlighting or outlining those numbers on Sauce, the only corner with 200 reps, and Colts fans are now loving it, retweeting it, obviously very happy, and they should be, and they should be. Colts just got themselves an elite young corner who should be there for another 10 years. Cowboys got themselves an elite defensive tackle who, let's face it, came in the league so young, he might be there another 10 years. Look how Leonard Williams is playing right now in his like 11th season. You know, it's as Leonard Williams apparently said to the broadcast team, I got grown man strength now. I'm playing my best football. And he is. Right now, Leonard Williams is playing better than I've ever seen him play. David, how are we doing, buddy? Good catching you in London for the the loss. That's all they do, really. David says, understand both trades. Don't like him though. Would rather Sauce be a building block. Q, I understand. By all accounts, hasn't been happy. That's the thing. And God, again, I'm not sitting here predicting a Garrett Wilson trade, but I wonder, if you're Garrett Wilson, are you like, what are we doing? I just signed this monster deal. So did Sauce. I wanted to be part of turning this thing around. So did Sauce. And now you just traded these. And I mean, this is, I don't, there's not been a bigger day as a Jet fan in terms of trades in my lifetime. When have they ever traded 2 players of this caliber within an hour of each other or a couple of hours? I don't know the exact time frames. That was crazy. But yeah, V-Dash says maybe they're like A.T. Thomas. Well, they better. I mean, I'm sure they do. They obviously took him in a spot where a lot of people were critical of it because they felt like they had bigger needs there. And you had Sauce and you just signed Stevens. Why would you do that? Big time. Stevens now goes from being CB2 to CB1. And we did see him, as I said the other day, he has played really, really well since week 1. Fans may not it's weird. Even now, even at this point in the season, I see people criticizing Brandon Stevens as if he's still playing like he did in week 1. He's been fantastic. From week 2 to week 8, 9, whatever we're in, he's given up 27 yards per game and 1 touchdown. What the hell's wrong with that? Zero problem with that. So Sauce Gardner is a Colt, Quinnen Williams is a Cowboy. The thing with Sauce, look, I'm happy he gets to go to the playoffs. The Colts are sitting at 7-1, 8-1 right now, whatever it is, 7-2. I think that's their record. I could be wrong, but I know they have one of the best records in the NFL. And Sauce is there now. Sauce is going to a place where they win football games. So congratulations to him. And Quinnen goes to Dallas. So he goes to a better team. It's more likely he'll win some football games. Jerry Jones, though, man. I mean, well, the thing is, you're acquiring a 27-year-old who has multiple years left on his deal. So It's not like you're doing a 1-year rental at what Dallas 3-5 and 3-5-1 or whatever it is. You are getting a piece for the future who beefs up your pass rush and your run defense. So it's tough, man. Tough day for to be a fan if you thought these were building blocks that this team was going to be moving forward with for years to come. Turns out to not be the case at all. And just Sauce move is shocking. There's no getting around that. And it makes you wonder you can't move Garrett right now. You got to have some weapons for your quarterback. So with 31 minutes remaining until the trade deadline, should I say it out loud? I don't foresee a Garrett Wilson trade. That would be absolutely bonkers. However, Brees, I'd be surprised if he doesn't go now. Again, I guess unless the Jets aren't getting the compensation they want, because of course they're rumored to be looking for a third rounder. But all shocking news, folks. Quinnen less shocking. As I said, I brought up the point a few weeks ago that he could be a trade target, and now he leaves the division, leaves the conference, obviously, and now the Jets. Mozzie Smith. I don't know that he's really done anything of late. I know that because he was someone out of Michigan who had a lot of hype, and I just remember looking at his numbers. I think late last year and thinking he had been a pretty big disappointment there in Dallas. Just popping and looking at what he's done production wise, looking at his stat line for the year. Yeah, played in 5 games, 0 starts, and 3 tackles. That's it. Sorry, 3 assists, not even a solo tackle. Last year, Mozzie Smith started all 17 games, 1 sack, 41 combined tackles. I'm gonna have to, I'll be watching film on him tomorrow, to see just how good he's been. But I do remember hearing several times that he's been a bit of a bust. And then A.D. Mitchell, the receiver that the Jets get in the Indy deal for Sauce, he was a guy that got a lot of pre-draft hype. He was that speedy receiver that the Jets could really use. And he's had some days. Well, no, it looks like I'm just popping to him real quick again. I'll watch film on these guys. Looks like he had a 96-yard game earlier in the year against the Rams, and last couple weeks he's had 20-some yards. He doesn't have a touchdown. Longest catch of the year. Okay, well, that's how you get to 96 on 3 catches. He had a 75-yarder. And he came out last year, not this year. I think I said he was a rookie, but he's a second-year guy. Didn't do a ton last year. 300 yards. I was thinking of Isaiah Bond. That was it. Both Texas receivers. When I said rookie, I was like, why would they deal a rook? So A.D. Mitchell, guy again, who got a lot of love coming out of Texas, has still not scored a touchdown as a pro. I'll be watching them tonight and coming back with what my thoughts on that part of the deal. But the Jets now, following these deals, will have 2 first-rounders this year. They'll have the one they currently have, along with Indy's, and they'll have Indy's one next year, or sorry, the following year. So 2026 one from Indy, a 2027 one from Indy. So 2 first-round picks for the next couple of years. And then 2026, again, this coming draft, they've got a pair of 2s from Dallas and a 2027 one. So the Jets, multiple 1s, multiple 2s. This changes everything, obviously. The one thing you hope does not happen, and now I think it's less likely. But the nightmare scenario here, the oh my God, what the hell did we just do to ourselves scenario here, is if the Jets go out again with Quinnen gone and Sauce gone, highly unlikely. But if the Jets go out and win themselves 3 or 4 games and knock themselves out of range to get a quarterback, because then all these picks you got to deal them to get a quarterback. And then you've traded 1s, 2s, Sauce and Garrett for a crapshoot at quarterback and not you don't have those premium picks to build around that quarterback. If things stay the way they are now, if the Jets are picking in the top 3, and then they've got extra 1s and 2s to build around over the next couple of years, that's the dream scenario. Obviously, the dream scenario being that you hit on that quarterback. So Darren Muji, and listen, we've talked about this before. I don't know if Muji's the guy calling the shots. I don't mean that to knock Muji. I just mean that as Aaron Glenn, and this is the way I've phrased it before, if I'm not mistaken. To me, he's the alpha. He's the guy in the room. If there's a decision to be made and there's a deadlock, Muji wants this, Glenn wants this, I think Aaron Glenn is getting what he wants. The Jets paid him a ton of money. He's a legacy guy. They want to finally get it right at head coach. So these were obviously blockbuster moves. If there are any other trades while I'm yammering on, feel free to hop in the chat and let me know. I got Twitter up. I'm hopping over there. But if I start talking and I miss a deal, by all means, chime in and let me know that something has gone down. Not sure. Let's see. Looks like the draft. Okay, yeah. Draft. Looks like the draft picks will be. Yeah. And that's so. And Jason from Over the Cap mentions Quinnen's due $22 million next year, and he's going to want a mega extension. That is a good point because he's got small money. He's all the big money's been paid to him on his deal, so he's got the small cash now. And I think it was already expected that he was going to be. I think it was already expected that he was going to be at some point this offseason saying, "Hey, I'm only due." I forget exactly how much, but he wasn't due much next year at all. Like a quarter of what he's been making in recent years. So it was likely that Quinnen Williams was going to be demanding a new contract this offseason. And now he probably will, but he'll be doing that in Dallas in Jerry World. And listen, it stings to see these guys go, especially Sauce, because with the extension I mentioned earlier, it was kind of expected he wasn't going anywhere. But now these guys get to go play, for teams that aren't going to be battling for the number 1 pick. They'll be battling. I mean, the Colts are an essential lock to go to the playoffs. And Dallas, I think mathematically is still in it. And they've played some close games, and Quinnen will really help that defense. Let's see. Tyrone John says, I'd say Quinnen wanted to leave. Gardner was dropping passes during, and now Brees may want to leave too. Well, that's the thing, Tyrone, is that, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago, if you're Garrett Wilson, you signed these extensions, you and Sauce Gardner signed these extensions back-to-back days, thinking you're going to be part of the long-term solution here. But the only thing with Garrett is, I think the goal here is to get a quarterback. I think they're going to want to have a weapon like Garrett and then add somebody else to that and give them something to really work with. So I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't count on Garrett going. Again, so you can make the same argument for Brees, but running back's a little bit different. They're a little bit easier to find. So Brees Hall, nothing on him yet. That's the main reason I've been checking Twitter while I'm breaking this down, because I wouldn't be shocked if we see another name pop up, another trade pop up. Mozzie Smith. Listen, we don't know who gets Quinnen's reps now. The Jets were already thin at DT. I don't know if I mentioned this at any point, but they didn't do anything at DT in the draft, despite the depth of this class. So, listen, Quinnen Williams is right now, and I know this off the top of my head because I looked it up the other day for the article I wrote about the surprising stats. Number 1 in the NFL in stops among defensive linemen. Like a PFF, what they can constitute as a stop is like a play that is a failure by the offense. So like you stop them short of the first down, you stop them short of the end zone, things like that. Or you just blow up a play and basically the team gets either a TFL or and this is an assumption on my part. This is the way I've read it described, is that it's any play that constitutes a failure by the offense. Nobody has caused more of those than Quinnen Williams as far as defensive interior linemen, um, or interior defensive linemen. So you take that for a defense that had listen, they had a couple of nice weeks. Don't get me wrong, and it looked like they turned the tackling had been better until Cincinnati. They missed a million in that game. But the 2 previous weeks, they looked like they were coming along. You know, they did a nice job defensively against Denver, did a nice job defensively against Carolina, and it looked like, okay, the defense is cleaning up its act. And then you trade your best cover corner and your best run defender. Like, I think things are about to get really, really ugly. As in uglier than they've been. I know I don't need anyone to remind me how ugly things have been for the Jets this year, but good luck stopping the run without Quinnen Williams because he has been the reason you've had any success against the run, which is just shocking. Tyrone again says, all I'm saying is it's hard to get talent like that. The Jets need veteran coaching staff, and the number one pick is my opinion. Yeah, listen, as much as I love the Aaron Glenn hire, my number one criticism of him this offseason, Tyrone, was he didn't bring in enough experienced coaches. Too many and not even rookie coaches, but guys who were coaching new positions for the first time, or guys, in Charles London, who he's had a few years as a QB coach, but he's never developed one. He spent most of his career as a running backs coach. So I looked at that staff and said, man, if you want to develop guys, bring in guys who have developed guys. Aaron Glenn went the completely young, rookie, inexperienced switching positions route, which I said that was my biggest concern in terms of off the field. Biggest on the field concern was, were they going to be able to stop the run because they ignored DT in the draft, and they're a little light at linebacker. So now without Quinnen Williams, I mean, look, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I don't. I mean, look, you got Dylan Gabriel this week, so maybe you slow the Browns down. But it's going to be, I don't know how much fun it's going to be watching this team try to stop. It's still, honestly, for me, as I'm sitting here talking about this, I'm running it through my head again. And I'm like, I'm sitting here talking about Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner aren't Jets anymore. As I said, worked, I don't know how many hours yet. I was up for 30 hours. I was like, oh, I need a quick nap. Slept longer than I thought. Wake up and look at my phone. Sauce is gone. Quinnen's gone. So I'm just really getting my head around it. It's not something I know a lot of fans are upset about it. Looking at Twitter, looking at Jet Nation, some people are fine with it. They want the picks, but man, you just traded 2 All Pros within an hour, 2 young All Pros within an hour of each other. So yeah, Tyrone, I totally agree. More experienced coaching staff would have been ideal. I still think that at some point this offseason, they will add a legit QB coach, guru, offensive guy at some point. And I think having a pick in the top 3 is what they can use. I've said this on my show before. I think they can use that as a carrot, right? Dangle the carrot to that candidate who may be thinking, I don't want to work for Woody Johnson. I don't want to come to the Jets. Culture of losing. Say, look, man, come on board. We're going to ask you to develop a quarterback who is going to be a top 2 or 3 pick, maybe pick 1. And, you're going to sit with the coaching staff. You're going to have a big hand in deciding who we take. So you're kind of doing what you can to make sure you get a guy and you get the quarterback he wants, who he feels he can best work with, who has the highest ceiling, and go from there. Because it's a decades-long problem that they haven't been able to find a quarterback. But just a shame that things didn't work out with Sauce and Quinnen, 2 immensely talented players. Quinnen drafted by Mike McCagnon, re-signed by Joe Douglas. At a time, if you think back, when Joe Douglas was hired, there were a lot of, you can go back and find the old tweets. There were a lot of people, trade Quinnen, trade him now, he's a bum, because this was before he blew up. This is when Quinnen had merely shown flashes of being great. And there was, I believe it was Schefter or Rappaport, I forget who, one of them reported when Joe Douglas was hired, the teams were calling and offering multiple premium picks for Quinnen Williams. And Joe Douglas was like, you know what? I think I know what I got here. And Joe Douglas kept him. So drafted by McCagnon, kept and re-signed by Douglas. Sauce, of course, drafted by Douglas, one of his best picks. And now both gone. 2 guys who we all kind of thought would be pillars for this franchise moving forward for 10 plus years. And now they both leave, neither one having ever experienced a winning season of NFL football with the Jets. So yeah, I get that fans are mad because these were supposed to be guys that you were gonna move forward with for the foreseeable, for both the short and long term future, and now no longer the case. Give me a follow, by the way, at JNRadio_Glenn, and be sure to check out the forums at Jet Nation, jetnation.com. Most active Jets message board on the web. I'm going to be hopping back on there in a second. I'm sure there will be hot takes aplenty, some rational takes and some not so rational takes. But Sauce Gardner, look, he's a guy who, after the issues last year, he had a 3 or 4 week stretch where the tackling was atrocious. There's no denying that. Hasn't been a problem since. He's missed 2 tackles this year. Haven't really seen plays where he's whiffing or just looking the way he did last year. But a lot of fans have been down on him because of lack of interceptions, which is, I mean, I understand the frustration behind it, but I don't understand the, well, he sucks. Like chill. You know, would you like some interceptions? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, it frustrates me too. But shutting down a number one receiver or holding a number one receiver to one catch, that has value too. That it doesn't impact the play. Like, it's not something fun and exciting that you get to, that you get to watch and say, oh, what a great pick, what a great this, what a great that. No, shutting a guy down so that he doesn't get targeted just means you don't see Sauce Gardner all day. And so people who just want to see those big plays, the splash plays, or they want their fantasy football points, maybe you took the Jets defense. I don't know why you do that. But not getting to watch plays on your television screen leads people to think, well, that guy must not be good. That guy sucks. I haven't heard his name at all today. Yeah, it's a good thing. You haven't heard his name because the quarterback hasn't thrown to the guy he's covering. That's over the course of, like, how many times do you have to get a quarterback to look away from his number one receiver to say that's having an impact? That's I always laugh. Oh, Sauce doesn't make impact plays. Holding a number one receiver to one catch for 30 yards and no touchdowns is impact. It's a bunch of impact plays. You've impacted a bunch of plays because the quarterback has either not even considered throwing the football to the guy that you're covering, or he took a look and decided, you know what, that coverage is too good. I'm going to have to look somewhere else. You've impacted the play. And Sauce Gardner does that about as well as anybody. Wayne says you don't build a team by trading away your best players. Well, I mean, I get what you mean, Wayne, but if you hit on these picks, that's exactly what you've done. I'm not saying they're going to. But look, I mean, the 2-1s, what do they have total here? 3-1s and 3-2s, right? Unless I'm reading it wrong. You got the 1 from Dallas, the 2-1s from Indy, the 2-2s from Indy. If you hit on 4 of those picks, I mean, if you hit on 2 of those picks and get 2 guys who are in that stratosphere, but that's the tough thing. Because these guys, Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, they're not just good players. As I said, they're both all-pro players. Those guys are hard to find. Really hard to find. So if you're Darren Muji, you got to hit on a quarterback. And if you hit on a quarterback, that makes it all worth it. But again, really hoping they don't need the quarterback. They don't need to trade up to get the quarterback. I don't see them being able to win any more games. Like I said, maybe beat Dylan Gabriel. But if Muji hits on these picks, Wayne, then that is how you build the team. Now, if you trade them away and you don't improve the team, absolutely. Absolutely. Jets need to trade players that can't stay healthy. Well, the thing is, those guys aren't going to fetch much. Brees, like I said, Brees might get you with 3. How close are we? We are 12 minutes from the trade deadline now. I'm going to pop back over again to Twitter, see if anything surprising has gone down. That does not appear to be the case. As I said, AD Mitchell gives the guy another high-end receiver in terms of speed, another legit deep threat. I should say a guy who has legit deep threat speed. He's not been that so far as a pro. But you've now added John Mechie and AD Mitchell, who were the 44th and 52nd overall picks, if I'm not mistaken. So you've added two guys who were premium picks in recent years. Yep, there's a tweet from the Jets making the trade official of Quinnen Williams. That was tweeted out 2 minutes ago. Quincy doesn't seem upset. Yeah, Quincy, I guess maybe he's hoping to be next, but he sent out the Will Smith, what are you going to do? GIF um, in response to the trade. Yeah, that's Diana Rossini. Maybe she means in terms of that. That's a terrible take from her. Diana Rossini says reaction from a league source to the Jets' two deadline trades. That source said they took a top 5 defense and tore it apart. Top 5 what, in New York? Top 5 in Jersey? Like, what are we doing here, Diana Rossini? That makes no sense. Anyway, the Jets did not just take a top 5 defense and tear it. But again, look, there's no getting around. They've traded two great players, two great young players. So let's see. Unlike JD, Muji's making good trades. So look, Muji's trades so far have been really good. But these ones, we got to wait to see how it works out. It's a good trade today. If he misses on, he's got himself 4 or 5 picks. If he misses on 4 of those guys, then you traded away 2 All Pros for maybe 1 All Pro. But I don't think he's going to miss it. He's not going to be John Idzik, for God's sakes. And I really think it's having Aaron Glenn in the room helps. If you look at where the Jets have done well in the draft already, defensive side of the ball, a lot, Azariah Thomas, later round guy, Malachi Moore, later round guy, Francisco Mauinoa, late round guy. And you've got Aaron Glenn, a former defensive player, in the room with you, who is a former scout over your shoulder, evaluating these players with you. I think that's where Aaron Glenn brings some extra value. So Muji's picks have gone well, but as I said, I think if there's a deadlock and a decision to be made, you're not going to convince me that Aaron Glenn isn't the guy pulling the strings and making this stuff happen. Wayne says it's not smart to trade proven commodities for a shot in the dark, particularly when you're not getting top 10 picks. Again, well, that's all up for debate, Wayne. I won't say you're wrong, but I mean, teams are so reluctant. I mean, how often? And I'm genuinely trying to remember, how often do we see a team trade a 1 when they, like, during the season, when they know they're going to be top 10? Like, it just normally when 1s get traded, it's for teams that know they're going to be picking in the 20s or worse. Ghost Clutch says brand new to rooting for this team. Hard have to. And to add insult to injury, I'm a Raiders fan. Oh, I'm not going to go on a Brock Bowers diatribe with his 3 touchdowns the other day. Well, welcome to the Jets. Ghost Clutch, not the first team I would recommend. Because I hate myself for being a fan of this team, but welcome aboard. Man. Let's see. Tyrone says, especially that player Clemens, always getting penalties. He stinks. Thing with Clemens, the penalties aren't as bad as they seem. If you look at the numbers of penalties Michael Clemens gets, they're not that high. He just gets some really bad ones, and he'll do something really dumb, and often in a big spot. So, like, 1 Michael Clemens penalty feels like 10 penalties. But if you just look at the sheer numbers, they're not that high. I think he had 3 or 4 last year. And, to hear him talked about, you would think he's a guy who gets flagged, every other week. Not the case. He's good for a few a year. And I think I'm not going to say anything because he'll go out and he'll hit a quarterback late this week. Okay, so Ghost Clutch says he worked with them. After working with them, I got to root for my guys. So Ghost Clutch says he's worked with some of the Jets with the organization. So now he's a Jets fan, which listen, it's hard to root for both of those teams. That's like that's a weird one, Ghost Clutch, because normally if the couple of times in my life I've met people who bail on a team, you generally They go for a team that's better. Did Rodgers trade for Butterfingers Lazard yet? Haven't seen that. Have not seen that at all. And I would imagine if there's any team willing to give up anything for him, then yeah, then you would just take it. Um, there's really, I mean, listen, Lazard as a blocker is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. And I think he's better. We've seen him play. We've seen him have some impact as a receiver. The Jets just are not throwing the ball to him at all this season. Not seeing a lot of other trade news come across either. Looks like Connor Hughes here says, "Oh, this is Miami." Says the Dolphins listened to offers for Waddle. They wanted a 1. Teams weren't willing to do it. Yeah, just like I said, scrolling for updates in case I missed something. We have 5 minutes until the trade deadline. And, every now and then you'll hear about a trade after the fact because teams are finalizing it and it doesn't, let's see. Teams are finalizing deals. Let's see. Benjamin Albright says the Jets. Oh, it went away. I had there's a Benjamin Albright tweet. Disappeared. He was commenting on the Jets. See if I scroll and find it. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, you can hop on the forums on jetnation.com. Let me, in fact, right here, I'm going to grab the thread or the link and put it here in the comments. I would suggest you go there. Check that out as well because it will be, I'm sure, pretty damn spicy. I'm going to be in there in a minute. There's the link to the forums at jetnation.com, where, again, all the deals will be being discussed ad nauseum. Real quick, let's see a couple of the comments. Discipline's been terrible on both sides of the ball. Penalties killed many rare good drives. True, but they've cleaned that up recently, Dennis. That has gotten a lot better in recent weeks. And that was, as I said when Aaron Glenn came on board and when I was applauding the fact that he was getting in guys' faces and yelling and screaming and trying to bring change to the culture and more discipline, like that's not going to happen overnight. You had years and years of Robert Saleh, you know, under Robert Saleh, you commit a penalty. It was like a high five, a pat on the backside, pat on the helmet. Good job, attaboy. Um, Years of that was going to take a little while to get that out of guys' systems and get them back to thinking about penalties are not good. Because guys didn't seem to realize that under Saleh because nobody told them. Now under Aaron Glenn, we've seen a significant drop in penalties, I would say, over the last 3-4 weeks. I was actually thinking about that earlier today, and I'm going to look those numbers up and see where they are now versus where they were at the start of the season over the first 5-6 weeks. Let's take a look. I'm going to see because they do update pretty quickly, don't they? Let's go. Let's see PFN. Let's go to their mock draft simulator and see what it tells us in terms of which picks the Jets now have, and then we can do a big picture. We're talking about the 1s and the 2s, but obviously the other picks are important too. And let's see. As of right now, of course, this can change because of, teams like right now, Indy is the 32nd pick. If they don't, now you want that Indy first round exit, don't you? Now, before you didn't care, like, Daniel Jones, let him win some games. I hope the guy has some luck in the playoffs. Now it's like, give us that first round exit, Indy. So right now the Jets are sitting at 3, 32, 35, 46, 103, 140, 239, 242, and 257. Tell you what, I'm going to be doing some mock drafts tonight, and I'm sure the mock draft geeks will be right there with me. That's, let's see. Hang on just 1 second. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Okay. Yeah, so good point. Tony Alexio says, the mock drafts are improved. The mock drafts are going to be a lot of fun now. We're going to have a lot of different options coming the Jets' way. I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, let's see. It is now 8:59, and there is nothing on the Twitter about any possible um hang on one second, about any incoming trades. Like I said, scroll down. Benjamin Solak. Where do I know him from? ESPN. Okay. The Jets Browns trade war. The Fernando Mendoza pick is gonna bang. That's the thing, right? You got the Saints at some point this year. You got the Browns now. Um, yeah, that's those are two teams you're still playing. Two teams you're still playing who you are going to be competing with for that number one pick. Yeah, that's some wild stuff. Wild day in Jets land, folks. That appears to be the end of trade deadline day for the Jets. That's a shame. Shame that Quinnen and Sauce are gone. Good dudes, good players, and but now you're in position. You are in position, Darren Muji, to do a lot of damage, a whole lot of damage. I mean, you're in position not only to grab a quarterback, but my God, do you package those two? Let's not start thinking about those scenarios right now. Let's not. Let's see. I want to beat them both. The pick can drop a bit. Yeah. Well, I mean, you beat them and you're not getting that's 3 wins. 3 wins ain't getting you the top pick. Because the Saints, I mean, I think the Saints are the main competition, really. The Browns at least have like some impact players on defense who every now and then when you have a team like that, they'll go in and steal a win or two that you don't expect because they beat the hell out of a quarterback, knock somebody out of a game, perhaps. But the Jets and Browns and Saints, this is gonna and don't forget, at least the Titans don't want a quarterback. But if they finish ahead of the Jets, then of course the team that does want a quarterback will be their friendliest trade partner would be Tennessee, because Tennessee just took a quarterback at 1. So it's crazy. Tony Alexi points out that Muji got players back. He did. A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie, folks. I mean, these are guys high picks in recent years. So if even one of them pans out as a wide receiver 2 type, then man, you got to give Muji his flowers. Mozzie Smith, again, a guy who was I don't quote me on this. I think he was the top DT in terms of reps of 225. If he wasn't the top guy, he was. I know I remember pre-draft hearing some of the stories about the numbers he was putting up at Michigan and during their workouts, setting records for bench press. So what he did at the combine, I forget, may not have even lifted. So many guys opt out of that stuff nowadays. But he's a powerful interior force. He just hasn't been productive yet. Like all the measurements are, measurables are fine until you're producing. People aren't all that worried. Wyatt says Glenn isn't tanking. No, he's not tanking, and coaches don't tank. I've said that before. GMs can make it harder to win by trading your best players, Darren Muji. So yeah, he's going to prepare to win every week, but when you don't have the talent to, and when you're barely able to hang in games, and you trade Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, you're still preparing best you can to win, but do you really have the talent to put up any wins? I think teams are going to. I think teams are going to exploit this Jets defense now, with no true run stopper up the middle, and no. I mean, again, Brandon's team has been good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. And in fact, how about if you are familiar with the forums at Jet Nation, um, you may know what I'm talking about. If you are not, then let me tell you about a big brain fan who said a couple of weeks ago, he said, here's my, this was our good friend, our good Jet Nation poster, Tom Shane. And Tom Shane said a couple weeks ago, I think the Jets are going to sit Sauce and play A.Z. Thomas. And if A.Z. Thomas holds his own, Sauce becomes trade bait. Hey, credit where it's due, Tom Shane. Nobody else in the NFL universe called that. So that was a hell of a shot to call. And today it all went down. And Tony says 1-7 with traded players. Can it be worse? Well, listen, they've had a couple of games where they were in it. I don't know if they're going to have any more. I don't know if they're going to have any more of those. Like I said, Dylan Gabriel's been pretty bad. So maybe. But listen, with Quinnen Williams, you've got 11 sacks in 8 games. Barely over 1 sack per game with Quinnen Williams on your defense. So I wouldn't be exceedingly optimistic about this team getting to the quarterback for the foreseeable future. I think whoever they play, whichever team, whoever the quarterback is, I think they're going to have all the time in the world to sit back and pick this Jets defense apart. And they're not going to have Sauce Gardner locking down the wide receiver 1. So teams don't tank, but they can position themselves to not be able to win, which is what Darren Muji may have just done. But it's all worth it in the end if he hits on all these picks. So we're going to wrap this one up. As I said, give me a follow at JNRadio_Glenn. Be sure you're checking out Flight 29, a weekly Jet Nation podcast. Like, subscribe, click the bell, whatever they say. And we'll be live. We're going to be live tomorrow, previewing Jets Browns, which is going to have a much different flavor now than it did just a few hours ago. And so, yeah, Tony, it can be worse, might be worse. Will almost certainly be worse for the rest of this year. But big day in Jets land. Sauce, good luck in Indy. Quinnen, good luck in Dallas. As long as you ain't playing the Jets, I don't care. Have no interest in either team. But both good dudes, both good citizens, both really good players who have lived through some of the worst football in the history of this franchise. And they deserve better. So I hope they win some football games. Have a good one, Jets fans.